Welcome to the AOD Fitness Podcast, where we're discussing all things health and fitness. I'm Kyle, and today with me is Ads, Mike, and Harry. Full team.
Full team's in.
Today we'll be debating what the most important way to train for the quarterfinals, or what's the most important way to train for the quarterfinals. So it's going to be a bit of a discussion podcast, this. So it's going to be quite fun. And at the end of it, I will choose, let's not say the winner, but the best argument. Okay?
Yeah.
Because no one wins, only me. Ads, do you want to take us away with your point of a discussion?
Yeah, sure. My point and my most important thing to train for the quarterfinals is basically trying to increase your lactate threshold and your ability to recycle lactate in your blood. That's mine.
Okay, Mike?
My point is movement economy. So how efficiently you move.
And Harry?
My point is basically based around work capacity. How much work can you do in a given time through a method that we call movement capacity?
Okay. So, 3 arguments. Let's get into a little bit more detail from each of you. We'll start with Ads. This is your first point. Let's get into a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So I guess my point is, if you look back at the last few years of quarterfinals workouts, there's always an element in there of like a rate limiting factor that most of the time comes down to muscle fatigue in like one element, right? Or like one body part. So take, for instance, 23.1, it was your capacity in your shoulders, right? You get to the wall facing handstand push-ups at the end, you've already done everything else there, and your shoulders just blow up at fatigue and they can't go anymore. Same with pretty much all the other quarterfinal workouts. There's some element that comes down to my muscle feels like it's blown up and pumped and I can't do any more of that. So the way you would improve that or get better or stop that from happening in the quarterfinal workouts would be to improve your local muscle endurance, and that would be by improving your lactate threshold and your ability to flush lactate and recycle lactate in your blood, so that how hard you can work, you can continue to basically produce that much power once you get to that point of like fatigue, right? Previously. So that's
What's quite interesting about that is that's actually one of the things. It was a podcast with Hinshaw on it. He was saying that's one of the reasons why Matt Fraser was so good. As in,
I remember
when he changes movements, because his metabolic system is so efficient at like recycling lactate and like redistributing all these byproducts that he's creating in the muscles. When he changes movement, it's just like flushing. So yeah,
that is interesting.
basically my points.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's definitely,
but that's Matt Fraser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone wants to be like Matt Fraser. So you train to get more
That's the most important thing for a CrossFit Games champion.
Yeah. So you're not saying quarterfinals. You're saying okay.
Yeah.
So.
Right, okay then, Mike. Let's jump down your rabbit hole.
Yeah, okay. Mine is to do with movement economy, so movement efficiency and energy leakage. So when you look at any of these quarterfinals workouts, there's normally, like Adji said, a bit of a rate limiting factor. And a lot of the time you'll see that people's movement breaks down before they like sort of get to full fatigue. So it's about being able to move more efficiently and make the cost of each rep from an energy standpoint a lot lower. So if we use Ad's example with the 21.3 from the quarterfinals, the wall facing strict handstands, I'm sure people remember doing this or had athletes doing this, where as soon as their head hits the ground, they like really arch their back and they're like struggling to press out. And the whole thing is just like costs way more energy than it needs to. So my point is that if you can move or improve your movement economy in certain areas, especially if you know where the area is weak for you, then you're going to be able to do more work for less energy cost, and you're going to be able to smash your competitors.
Excellent.
That's my one.
So my work capacity argument. So due to the changes this season, my opinion has like changed. So previous years at the quarterfinals, when it's the top 10%, because it's a much smaller pool of athletes, it allows you to have a much broader set of tests. So like people's like really anaerobic top end stuff was quite important, and also they're like testing longer elements as well. Whereas now I think because it's the 25% and the way that they're going to be running this within the affiliates, I think that the only way they can test is through just pure durability, volume of movements, and that's why I think that movement capacity is going to be the best bang for your buck that people can get. So you basically need to look at previous open workouts and the volumes and densities that they present. Then you need to look at the outcome that you would like to achieve in terms of kind of like, where's my goal placing in the quarterfinals? You then take those movements and you use them in conjunction with each other, whether that's complementary movement patterns or ones that have quite a high level of interference. And then you structure it into like EMOM style workouts. So this doesn't mean it has to be every minute. It could be every 40 seconds. It could be 30 on, 30 off. It could be every 2 minutes. But what you're going to do is work these movements together, and then you're going to progressively increase the density so you can do more work in less time. Now, another big component of this as well is that because you're doing high volumes of these movements, and the starting point shouldn't be super intense, it should have quite a high quality to it, you will actually improve your movement economy through exposure to the movements and your body just naturally becoming more efficient anyway. And that is what I think for the quarterfinals competitor to try and perform, which is top 25% now, which is quite a lot, to try and perform as best they can. That is the most important thing, unless there's very clear bottlenecks in terms of strength or metabolic systems that are just massively lagging. But that applies to all of us, right? It's like if there's low-hanging fruit in other areas, you're going to hit that first. But if we're talking very general, fairly well-rounded competitor, that's what I think is going to be most important.
Yeah, like I say, this is for everyone who's can hit the strength numbers, can hit the skills, doesn't have like a massive
for the level that they want to be at.
So would you say, here's my only things that, because training movement capacity in those elements, you're so specific, right, in what you do, or you could be so specific in what you do, you just do thrusters and chest to bar, right? Would you say there is a limit to how much of that you can do, or how soon you should train that? Because you can't do that for 6 months, right? Because you're just going to get stagnated in where you can go. But also, you're training so specifically for the test that I have no doubt you will get better at thruster and chest to bar in like a workout. But do you think that's too specific that you're then maybe missing out other?
Would you not just think about movement patterns then? Just be like a swivel.
That is what I do. I would bucket things, but I also wouldn't vary it too frequently, because otherwise you're not going to get that kind of accumulative adaptation. So I think that's where it's quite important that you have to be quite specific with your selection. Like, this is me being like, I'm going to predict what the workout's going to be like, because it could be totally wrong. You're not going to come out worse for it because you'll be better at all those movement patterns, but it's like specific loads, specific reps, particular movements that are going to come up. So it's almost like we can, because of the way they've changed it now, you can almost kind of assume certain movements aren't going to come up. Like, if they want you to run the quarterfinals in your affiliate, and your affiliate has 1 GHD, but they're trying to get 25% of the CrossFit Open population for it, I'm going to assume there's no GHDs. I'm going to assume there's no echo bikes, like things like that. So you can really start to narrow the focus down.
Yeah, I feel like that's, I agree.
And then the resist, and then in terms of what you're saying about just working movements, it is the resistance of the movements and the way that you couple them together will kind of dictate how that affects your metabolism as well. Now, the metabolic state that you'll be in will be very specific to the sport, which isn't necessarily bad for people because they're just doing more of the specific thing. But it's like, don't put 2 really heavy movements together all the time, because then it's just going to become more of a strength endurance component than kind of...
Yeah, I think you might be, you maybe are bottlenecked a little bit, even if you bucket movements, which you definitely would do. You still, by improving your movement economy or your efficiency in like the squats.
Mine is the least general. The least general,
Yeah.
most specific.
I would say, yeah. If you're looking at like, because we have to do this anyway, right? We do this
Yeah,
year
yeah,
round
of
when it comes
course.
to the point. Then you also look at like how we maybe do like volume tolerance training as well, right? And you start with those EMOMs and then maybe move into more dense work. So say, I don't know, you did a 20-minute EMOM of like chest to bar, pick some other like way of comparing to some form of squatting. So like double box step overs, then you do bar muscle ups, then you do wall balls. Then you can move to like more dense progression where instead of doing like a 20-minute EMOM, 3 rounds of that, you do 20-minute EMOM, but it's minute 1 to 5 is all the chest to bar work, minute 2 is all the double box step over work. Then you can move to like try and put it in more sport specific stuff as you get closer to the quarterfinals, right, as well. So it doesn't have to be limited to just pure have to do a 10-minute EMOM for 6 months, right? Like you say, there's a lot of variety you could play in that. Yeah.
But if you squat like shit, you still will lose.
As in your progression through the method that I'm suggesting will have a ceiling if you have a serious movement deficiency.
Yeah.
But then also your kind of like intramuscular coordination and your movement, so however good your front rack is, or your squat pattern, will improve through repetition as well.
Yeah.
If you start with a relatively lower intensity that allows you to move with the intention to do that. If you just start off with 10-minute EMOM, 20 thrusters, 20 chest to bar the next minute, it's like you're just going to be killing yourself the whole time.
Despite your work capacity, if you move better, you will definitely be able to win, right? Because if we take, like, I'm going to bring it up anyway because it was one of my main points. Let's look at Matt Fraser and Friendly Fran. Okay, that workout is obviously a lot of it is in the thrusters and your ability to do thrusters well. He probably, out of all the athletes, has the best movement economy in the thruster. It's quite, you can actually see it pretty much. One, because his speed's so good, but also if you look at like his technique, it is extremely good. However, he beats people by over a minute in a 4-minute workout. It's 25%. However, if you put him on if you tested their work capacity in another way that was maybe a little bit more general, like a 4-minute max cal echo bike, and you take the top 10 CrossFit people in Friendly Fran, he's not beating all 10 of them by 25%.
That year they did do that. They did a 1K row.
Yes. Oh yeah. Great shout.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's a 4-minute, well, it's not, it's a 3-minute workout, right? For these boys. And the difference will have been half a second, 0.3 of a second, right? And my point is that his movement pattern allows him to express his work capacity much better.
I don't disagree with you, but
Yeah, you can't disagree. Moving well is a good thing. Of course.
But do you not agree that we see it all the time? You can get some people who, in the nicest way, move like a bag of spanners, and yet are so fit and have like such a high lactate threshold that they butcher their way through workouts and perform so well, get scores that are like beating. Like I move pretty well. I'm not beating anyone in fucking workouts because I am not as fit, right? But I move pretty
Generally
damn
well, yeah, generally well.
So
I think your ceiling was that these people will hit their ceiling and then they won't be able to prove much more because they're not.
but if their ceiling is qualifying for semi-finals, moving terribly, who cares?
It's not going across the games because they could improve their movement by a slight.
We're talking.
However,
I think that's across the board. If you
Yeah,
don't open that, I think it's a massive part.
for you ads, I'll be honest, part of movement economy, especially sport CrossFit, is going to be like anthropometrics. And you are at a disadvantage in a lot of things, especially when you look at pressing or squatting, because the work you have to do with a 50-kilo barbell, let's take Friendly Fran, to squat it below depth and press it overhead, you probably, and this is not an exaggeration, you probably have to do 2 to 1 to Matt Fraser in terms of work done, just because of your height.
Yeah, that's why I'm not.
And no. So imagine that you equated it to the same like work done through movement economy. So let's say it's 2 to 1. Now all you have to do is 10.5 thrusters.
Yeah, but it's not
Each time. No, I know.
Don't do that.
But if you had the ability to move as well as him, because your anthropometrics are like lined up and you're this, that, and the other, maybe you would be as fit as Matt Fraser, bro. We don't know because we can't change your limb length. But that's part of it as well. Obviously, that's a genetic factor which people can't change.
So basically, I'm saying get people as fit as possible. You're saying get people to move as well as possible. Harry's saying get people really good at the specific things that are going to come out in quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So let's take
Field tolerance.
Let's take the example. Let's take a an example athlete, typical of who's going to be listening to this podcast, right?
Someone we know,
And
or we just
no, I'm just going to create an example.
Yeah,
So, all of their bases is fairly well rounded. They're one of those that don't have any huge strengths. They also don't have any glaring weaknesses. They train 2 hours, 5 days a week. What does your guys' protocol? Because obviously there's going to be more to their program than this, but we're prioritizing these areas.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
What does your guys' protocol look like for the 5 day a week, maybe with an active recovery day?
Yeah.
That's not active recovery. 5 days a week, 2 hours. They've covered most of their bases fairly well.
As in,
So
we're assuming that they're hitting all the skills and things needed.
as in that whatever level they want to achieve,
Yeah.
they have a lot of the prerequisites.
Okay,
in terms
sorry, yeah,
of-
okay.
In terms of those things,
Okay.
to a decent level. Like to
One,
be-
why would our thing? Where should we put our thing into their program?
Yeah,
and
how
why?
are you implementing your ideas for the 5 day a week athlete to enhance / optimize their performance in the quarterfinals?
Easy. So I'm going. Say they're training Monday to Friday, make it easy. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so 3 days a week, they're going to do like lactic capacity intervals, okay? They're going to pick, each one of these is going to be different depending on their weaknesses of an element that they struggle with, right? So someone might be like, my legs block, I'm doing wall, someone else might be like, my shoulders block wall. So it needs to be specific to the muscle that they find that is their limiting factor.
And just to
right?
kind of define lactic capacity in the simplest way, it's kind of like getting in the shit and how long you can stay in the shit.
Yeah, basically, yeah, improving your ability to stay in the ship for as long as possible, right? So yeah, 2 as a minimum times a week, 3 if you want to do a little bit more. You'd go start on the lower ends for like 2 sets of 3 rounds, 90 seconds to 2 minutes on with like incomplete rest, so like 60 seconds to 90 seconds off, and you'd go just let's take an example of someone's like quads blow up when they do wall balls and whatever it is. So you say 90 seconds on, do 27 calorie standing bike erg, remaining time box jump overs, or remaining time wall balls.
And that incomplete rest means that you're extending their ability, right?
Yeah, and then over time you can obviously increase the number of sets, increase the working time, but it stays the same.
With the goal of doing more work.
Basically, and then like I say, you'd say that could be a Monday session. Your Wednesday session can then be, okay, as well as like my quads blown up, my shoulders get fatigued, whatever it is, doing handstand push-ups, then you can make it more specific to that. And then the Friday one can maybe be another lower body intensive thing. So a bit more specific to what they feel like their limiter is. But yeah, then that's their conditioning for the day. On that day, there's enough rest between the days that they're not like carrying loads of fatigue into the next session. You'd obviously have to plan that out. Like you don't want to be doing that one that I just said into the next day doing some heavy max squats. But that'd be the Russian thing. Easy.
Okay, for mine,
Winning.
So for mine, it's quite hard because I'm not just going to have people bloody doing like PVC squat therapy. Do you know what I mean? To make them squat better. However, I would recommend seriously that said person works with or alongside a coach to figure out where their movement discrepancies are.
Like a needs analysis.
Yeah, get a needs analysis. And then what you're going to want to do with that is drip feed. Obviously, the coach is then going to prescribe specific movement work to try and make you more efficient in that area. But then if you're talking about the actual training, I'm going to bucket things, the most common movement patterns that you see in CrossFit into groups. So for me, it's going to be a hinge, a squat, some sort of press, and some sort of pull. You can go vertical and horizontal with the press, whatever, that's kind of on you. And you're going to specifically tailor the program to areas that they're weak in. So say they have a deficiency in their hinge, and you are going to work good movement patterns in the hinge not every time, but during this session. Then afterwards, you're going to look at building good capacity in the hinge. So you're going to do some specific movement work for the hinge. Then you're going to look at training and strengthening that movement range. And then you're going to look at building capacity in that movement range, all while prioritizing moving really, really well. I don't want to say that as soon as your movement breaks down, you have to like stop.
But that's kind of, if we're all being solidly in the camps of our arguments, your argument lacks intensity. Yeah.
Mine does lack intensity. Yeah.
I think that's the thing with movement work that people make the mistake of, right? People are like, oh, I have a bad I don't know, I'm a bad front wrap, so what I'm going to do is stretch my front wrap for 10 minutes every single day. And it's like, yeah, you're going to see some improvements maybe in your mobility in a very like static position under no load. But then if you don't also do heavy thrusters, heavy front squats, and try to actually strengthen that range of motion, it's never going to improve.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
yeah,
I think movement does.
I think realistically, what I would do is take mine, really highlight those areas crucially, do it in a style of training that's like yours, and build volume in a style that's like yours, and then you probably do all right.
Nice tapping out his lost. Right, all right, that's
Yeah.
You can still add intensity though, because you do the movement work to the specific movement that you want to do.
Yeah.
And in that same session, so part A is that, part B, you could be then doing an EMON of the movement with.
Oh, what, my method?
No. Maybe not so much like building capacity, but still getting. So you've got the movement that you're just trying to get better at, then you're practicing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just isolating it still, but maybe using different. You could be kettlebells, could be dumbbells, mix it up a little bit so we're not. Using the fun. Then you can change it and get a bit of intensity.
Yeah, I
without
definitely.
load. It could be like.
I
speed.
definitely do think that
Do both
if you
concurrently.
can vary the pattern but keep the bucket the same, to make the movement more efficient, then that's going to be really, really useful. Because
Have you been in? Sorry, have you done the movement on TTT yet?
Yeah, I've been going.
They will go over this.
Yeah, no, what I've been doing for some people is like, as an example of kind of what you're doing is, someone struggles with like pistol mobility and positions. So obviously they go through majority of their sessions normal, then they'll go through like a specific pistol like mobility and movement part that might take 10-15 minutes going through, and then going into a workout that maybe has not like loads of volume of pistols, but has volume of different variety of squats, right? So whether it's like narrow stance, air squats, whether it's like deck squats, stuff like that are going to still force them to try and improve that range of motion, increase a little bit of intensity, but also carry over that movement work.
I guess then if you wanted, because I guess what I have to do is come with a training implementation. If you want a training implementation, what I would do, let's take the hinge. I would do something like this. Your limiter is movement quality. So I'm going to pick 3 different moves for the hinge: a deadlift, a kettlebell swing, and a hip extension on the jig.
Well, you got 5 sessions a week, 2 hours long.
Yeah, but I'm going to give an example of the hinge one. So the athlete has a deficiency in their hinge. We're going to hit this multiple times, maybe twice a week. We're also going to hit the squat and the press and the pull, because they're the most common movement patterns that we see, and it's important that you're efficient in those, so that you get carryover into these other movements. So I'm going to do an example of the hinge, but you could do squat, pull, and press as the same thing. I'm going to go, you have a X percentage deadlift, let's say 70% of your deadlift, maybe a bit heavy, whatever. The percentage isn't massively important right now. Let's go 50 to 65%. You do deadlift set until you lose perfect form. What is perfect form for the athlete? Then you rest for a short period of time and you go to a lighter loaded movement, so like a kettlebell swing, and you move until you lose perfect form for the athlete, and then you rest for a short period of time and you do GHD hip extensions until you lose perfect form for the athlete. And what you're trying to do is improve the person's ability to hinge and their mechanics.
It's almost kind of like a drop set, right?
A drop set, a CrossFit drop set, but the movement
intensity and the complexity
yeah,
comes down.
Yeah, that's how I would, if I had to argue for economy, that's how I would do it. And you can do it for then the pull, the press, the squat, the single leg squat, wherever your athlete's weakness is, that's what you do. So you could go heavy strict press into strict handstand push-ups into banded strict press. So I'm just coming up with that off the top of my head. But the limiter is once they start to move, once they start to flare their ribs, or once they start to lose position of their elbows or whatever, that's when you cut it off and you go on to the next thing.
I'd add a lot more tempo work and probably pausing as well.
Yeah, sure. Well,
to
the strength work,
reinforce-
for their strength work, you could definitely do it like that. Like I would build strength in the eccentric range
Yeah, I
of
mean,
things.
in the sense of movement prep as well, like movement economy, because say like you're doing a deadlift kind of kettlebell swings, I guarantee the factor will be grip by the time it gets to that.
Right.
So they're injured, be going, oh my God, I've got to put that down. I'm not.
Sure.
I've got to put that as grip, as
Sure.
grip fatiguing. So
Yeah.
trying to, I would maybe, I like the point of that, but I think you can change it up a little bit more.
No, I mean, well,
slower tempo.
yeah, absolutely. The movements were not necessarily the correct ones, but the point is, that you're trying to find ways to perfect this pattern. Yeah. And by scaling the by scaling the loading and the intensity. If you want to look at their strength work, it will be exactly that, I guess. Building strength in tempos and pauses and perfect positions. But you do probably lack intensity a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to not wrap up, but I'm going to come into it. I think, basically, the whole of these arguments, because we're going to choose them, we're pretty aware that they're probably all good arguments, and they could all go into to what we was debating.
And they will go into a program.
100%, right?
If they're not, you're doing something wrong. Yeah,
I'm going to choose an order. What I would say is the most we need right now going in where we are in the season.
All I'm saying, bro.
Right where we are in the
For
season.
the 5 days a week athlete.
When Rich thrown it,
where we are. Like, because we're not too far out going into the
Yeah,
season.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
All right. So, Mike, you know I love it.
Yeah.
But this would have been more of the back end of the season, trying to get
Absolutely.
into the training and making sure the athletes are moving well.
Yeah. Because your man's lungs are...
Yeah.
I would be developing Adzi in the second place because this is kind of thing we want to start making more the muscles more endurable for the capacity that we will hold.
Yeah.
And how it is. But that would only be where we are right now.
I feel like I agree.
Where we are.
But these two express
can you
how
argue
high
now?
that can go.
Yeah.
So especially the higher that you get in the elite level,
Yes.
I feel like this plays a bigger factor into that. Because
That's what I'd say. Yeah, like for being specific to the quarterfinals for a certain number of people. Yeah, agreed. Like
get better at chest to bar.
Yeah, if you do,
Right now, we're
if you do
talking right
4 weeks of thrusters and chest to bar, you're gonna get fucking way better at thrusters and chest to bar, right? But then long-term development, I would say, that's probably the most important for long-term development. Like, because you are going to hit a ceiling with, no matter how fit you get at that certain point. And again, you're going to hit a ceiling with weight.
Continuous thing,
And
right?
the same goes for they got set step out of it. They win.
I feel like yours is like very individualised to the athletes that you're going to have because it's like there could be bottlenecks for everyone and muscle endurance aside of the things like that. So
Because also, for you to get that prescription right, they need their energy systems and also their tolerance to certain movements needs to be in a place that's actually worthwhile. Because, like I say, if you're trying to extend their ability to do things, like if they can't already do it that well in the first place at specific loads.
Yeah, they're not strong.
But then that's what I said. We're talking about a very general person, right? So
yours is like where we are right now. Yours is probably the one where most people need to concentrate on. That isn't long term. That's very like where we are now. That's what we're going to be doing. Yeah. Because these are development. You guys are development.
But
This
then-
is more
but
like
then
we've got
there's
this
the-
for 6 weeks and then we're going to probably
But then
find
there's the
ceiling.
wild card, right? There's the wild card is which if we had a fourth person, if we had Joe Pearson here, it's just like viewing the season changes as maybe it being the quarterfinals now kind of looks like what the 5-week open looked like. Do you just repeat open workouts? And then that style of workout, you just optimize it for the physiology that you've got in that moment, because mine still requires like this very periodized growth where you're coming through and it's denser, it's more intense.
Whereas you're specific.
You're riding the threshold. Whereas if you wanted to just repeat open workouts, so do more CrossFit, which does work when you're coming close to something, you don't have the option. You don't have the option to be like threshold, getting better. Like it's just like hammer. Yeah.
I would say if you move well, or generally well, not like a foot and bag of spats.
Yeah.
You're quite fit in like your single modality stuff. Right now, you should just repeat open workouts.
Because then essentially you go, I am shit thruster, so I need to do maybe something to assist that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you need to build your capacity in what's the classic? You remember when they had the 27, 21, 50, it was more than that, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, thrusters, chest bar. Yeah, do that a couple of times. You'll get better at it.
Yeah.
If you move poorly, you're going to be limited.
The only reason I don't like that repeat open workout practice is because there's no kind of periodization to it. It's very much like it's like doing CrossFit classes but RX plus, because open workouts are much harder than CrossFit classes.
I think you just get better at like when you just get better at knowing yourself.
Yeah, and you get tougher as well. Pacing would get a lot better, because if I'm firmly in my camp, I'm not going to be like, and then we throw in a really big density of one movement at once and varying respiratory through this. Mine's just like linear, which the right workout comes up and that linear approach is going to be so sweet, because you're like, I've basically done this. But then like that workout comes up, the box step ups, strict handstand is like 50 handstand walk. People that did my method are like this. oh shit, I've only done sets of 10 of these, at least like a minute off in between.
I don't know what I should be doing.
Yeah.
I was like, they would have improved towards that, but like having that really high density and that sport specific nature to it is.
But my guy moves so well, it's not 50, it's like 30s. It's great.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like.
That's
That's the difference. Yeah.
He's divided.
Plus it's cheating.
Free reps.
Right.
Yeah.
You get free reps because it costs so little.
In all honesty, like training out right for anyone leading into the quarterfinals now, we're going to have all these elements in it, right? That's like old open workouts, quarterfinal work. That's just going to be their sport practice in a week.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have energy system development specific to them. They're going to have capacity movements based on old open workouts. They're going to have movement workouts specific to them as well. As is AOD Athlete, right? So basically, come on AOD.
I think just to push my argument over the line,
You've already won.
is that just to push it over the line. I think that my approach is for the everyday athlete who just has a normal job, whatever, kids, and they're coming to the gym 5 days a week. Mine, even though there is some kind of specialist knowledge, mine has the easiest application for an individual who doesn't have specialist knowledge.
It's someone who can get better right now. Yeah.
Anyone can go to the gym and just do that, right? You don't need,
Yeah.
you don't need a coach to go and do that. Don't do a fucking email, make it harder each week and progress. Yeah,
But you're still limited.
You are.
These ones need a little bit more.
That's when people need a coach, right? Is when they've stopped progressing from these really menial specific methods and they need specialist information, the specialist eye to be like, this is where your movement's limited, or like this part of your energy systems needs a little bit of work, and these are the movements and we're going to pair things like that. So that's kind of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why one's good now, but if you need the long-term improvements or you're plateaued or something like that, you need coaching. You need the
You're
brain.
fine, mate. Chill out.
Yeah.
Chill out, bruv. Okay. All right. So we wrap this one up then. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. If you've got any, or if you actually want to join in the debate, maybe shoot us a message, Clay, like
Yeah, they can message you.
underneath. Comment on it. Maybe what you guys think if you're listening. So it'd be good to hear some of your thoughts. But yeah, thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.